Hello, my name is Sidharth, and this is my comparative media project. Here's a quick look at the table of contents, what we'll be going over. Alright, so the two medias and current events. The two medias we are going to be focusing on is televised news and news through social media, more specifically TikTok. I chose televised news because that is the portal through which many of my parents and my older co-workers receive a majority of their news through, even if they have social medias like TikTok. I also chose social media's news, especially TikTok, because majority of my friends, as well as myself, get our news through social media, whether it be TikTok's account from CNN or Bikini Bottom News. You'll see what I mean later. Televised news has existed since the 1940s. Televised news has existed since the 1940s, and it brought a new visual impact and up-to-date stories. And this sort of trait was passed down to social media. And this created news through TikTok, which is also extremely fast and new. And this started primarily in 2020. Like many of its social media counterparts, its content is user-based and user-generated. With it being user-generated and user-based, it could easily lead to a lot of misinformation being spread about. The current event that I'm focusing on is the escalations between the United States and Iran after a drone strike killed 3 U.S. troops. Televised news. As far as televised news goes, the reporting style is very professional. We know that news channels are on whole sets with producers, directors, and news anchors. The style is again very professional, but using a lot of imagery because it is a television-based news program. Reports can go into as much detail as they can, and the frequency of the reports can be anywhere from days to hours between the last report on specific stories. Obviously, reports on generally news stories are always constant, but on specific stories, there can be hours or even days of delay before a new update is given. So for social media channels, TikTok in this case, the reporting style is often short-form content and the content is usually based off of traditional media reports and secondary sources. Oftentimes, there may only be one small post about a story, and those stories do not go into particular detail unless they're split among multiple different parts. This is because, again, short-form content, and many of these content creators want to generate views, which creates ad revenue or revenue in many other ways. So it is often that detailed posts are split among various different posts. The frequency of reporting is can be hours between the last, or maybe even days between the last. Similar with traditional news forms, it is depending on how active traditional news is when it comes to the reporting of the story. And the presentation is generally formal, however, unprofessional hooks often take the bait, right, for the social media space. Here, so some similarities is that serious topics are given a serious tone, right? Even though I get my news from Bikini Bottom News, a SpongeBob themed fish talking news, it is still given a tone and respect. Reporting is done with the same structure of a hook with statistics and numbers or big breaking news titles, and elaboration comes later with context and details. How has it affected society? Personally, I noticed that younger generations get a majority of their news through social media, often, again, short form news, and they often research into it on their own accords. So whether they want to or not is up to them. Older generations take their news from older formats, again, newspapers and televised news. This leads to a sort of this leads to a weird way of how everyone is kept in the loop of current events and how everyone has what we have seen on the news. It can lead to interesting side conversations about how I got my news from a talking fish. In discussion, when asked for credibility about our news sources, obviously social media is taken very lightly as it's not seen as very credible. In the future, historians will regard social media as having a positive impact on journalism and the journalism industry. I believe this is true. Since social media news is often so bare, it leads to people wanting to research more on their own, adding to their information bank. And with these when doing research, it is often these traditional news articles and televised news stations where they get their information from, as these are generally considered more credible. Things to be wary about when it comes to social media news and TikTok is about misinformation, right? That's always been the big thing, and to have a strong understanding of what makes a good source and what makes it reliable. These are my video sources, and thank you.